Want her to start or you want to wait?
We're recording, so whenever you want.
Everybody
Want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're having another fun evening of food, of playing with our food. And to begin with, I'd like to just kind of apologize because a couple of recipes were translated from the French and I left a little something out here and there. Tomorrow I will send you one that is completely fixed. So don't be mad, okay?
One of the recipes changed.
And one of the recipes, I'll get to that about the big change. Now, the first thing we got to do is get our dessert in the oven. And we're going to make a clafoutis with apples. And it's going to have a beer in the batter. And it called for an amber beer. So what I'm using is the Gerst beer made in Nashville, which happens to be what my husband likes to drink. So I'm using this amber beer from Nashville. I couldn't find a Brittany beer anywhere. I tried, okay? And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna start, we have 3 eggs. I'm gonna put those in my, notice, I would like for you to notice my very nice mise en place here. Everything I need. So I'm gonna beat up the eggs. Like this. Just a little. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I get my spices from Penzeys. You probably already know that. And heat it up. Pinch of salt. This is sea salt from Penzeys. It's said Pacific sea salt, so it's not Brittany sea salt. And then I'm going to add my brown sugar, the amount that it says in the recipe. Stir it again. And then I'm going to add my milk and beer. And maybe I should have had a slightly bigger bowl. And then I want to add my flour that's been sifted, so there shouldn't be any lumps in there, and stir until it's all mixed up. Okay, I'll whisk this again before we pour it over the apples. But what we want to do now is just put a little cover on it and let that rest until we're ready to put it on top of our apples. I have my apples that I have cut in thin slices. I peeled them. These are Gala apples cut in thin slices. And I'm going to go over to the stove. And I'm going to turn on my burner and put the butter in there that the recipe calls for. Now, I need to be perfectly honest, I'm using almond milk and what is known as vegan butter, because you may or may not know that Tom can't have anything from a mammal. So I wanted to make something for a reward for him for being such a good cameraman. Now, we're gonna toss our apples in there. I maybe should have had a bigger skillet. Turn that up a little bit. And those will just get soft. What I'm gonna do is get a lid. That's what I need. Ta-da! A lid for the apples so they'll steam a little bit. And I will just give them a little toss as they cook. It won't take, we don't have to cook them all the way because they're going to bake in the oven for about 40 minutes. But we do want this to be on there. We're going to add a little more. We're going to add some brown sugar to this. We're going to add some cinnamon. Penzeys cinnamon. they don't pay me for this. And toss and toss and toss. So the sugar's all kind of divided around and starting to melt with the apples. And the cinnamon flavor gets covered up too. I mean, divided up too. All right. So now as that cooks, it won't take very long. I'm using about medium high heat. Maybe I'm going to see, can you see how much, what the heat is? You don't want it too hot. It'll make the apples on the bottom burn. Does that sound like the voice of experience? Okay, so here we go. All right, that's going to cook for just a few minutes. And then what we're going to do is put those in a pan, pour our batter over the top, set a timer. I must remember to set a timer for 35 minutes. Typically, it takes 35 to 40 minutes. And that's so. We don't, I have been known to forget the timer and forget what was in the oven before. I don't know how that
I set
happened.
it now and I can push start when it's time.
Pardon?
Set it now and I'll just push start when it's time.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to set my timer for 35 minutes. And then when I put it in the oven, we'll push start. All right. This will take just a couple more minutes. I found some interesting facts about Bretagne in a book, and I thought, well, that's weird. There's not a single winery, a vineyard. There's no wine made in Bretagne at all, not one single bit.
Teresa's nodding yes.
But the rest of the book was written in 1993. So I went looking online, and there is one rather large winery, which is in the Département of Loire-Atlantique. So it's in the Loire Valley. How could that be Bretagne? It's way far south of Bretagne. Okay, these are looking really good now. Just another couple minutes. And so the more I read, the more I realized why all the recipes, well, I could have had apples in every single, we are going to have apples, almost everything, because apparently the whole place is covered with apples to make cider. And from that cider, they make an eau de vie of apples that they like to drink for breakfast, you know? Honestly. That's what it all said. Okay, those are looking pretty good now. Let's turn that off and take it over here. And I have my pan that's all prepared. I put it in there. Make sure you get all the juice out of there because that juice is good stuff. Let me flatten it out a little bit. And then I'm gonna pour, whoops, it won't matter that I forgot to cover the lid. I think you just do that when you're cooking in your farm kitchen to keep the flies from getting in there or something. Yeah, it's all down, it's good. All right, so I'm just gonna pour this over the top. Voila. Oh, doesn't that look nice? Okay. And this is going to go into the oven. All right, I'm putting it not sort of center of the oven, and we set our timer for 35 minutes, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now we're going to make our first course, which is coquilles Saint-Jacques, scallops. And I need to give you notice on the recipe I asked you to find U10 dry scallops. U10 means that there are 10 or fewer to a pound, 10 or under to a pound. Dry means it hasn't been injected. A lot of times the ones, almost always, the ones you buy frozen in the grocery stores, frozen section will say injected with a solution of blah, blah. And they do that because scallops are pretty, they're pretty, they go bad fast. And they don't want, you know, this helps keep it from doing that. But it also means that when you put your scallop in the oven to brown, it's not going to brown until that water comes out. And by the time the water comes out, the scallop is overdone. Go to Paradise Seafood, go to Fresh Market, go to Whole Foods. They have dry scallops. I don't know, some of the Kroger stores may, but the ones that are in the freezer, don't use those, okay? So, over here. The first thing we're going to do is make a gastrique to go on our scallop appetizer. If you know what a gastrique is, we're going to caramelize a little bit of sugar, and then we're going to make it into a sauce. We're going to put vinegar in it. Don't use Heinz apple cider vinegar. That's tart and it's not good. The best vinegar, if you could get it, is from France called Vilux, V-I-L-U-X. We ordered, how long ago did we order that and it never did come?
Couple months.
Couple months ago. But this is from Fresh Market and it is organic and it tastes pretty good.
Still.
Can you see it?
They can't talk to me.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we've got the appropriate amount of sugar. And I gotta get my glasses so I can see what I'm doing.
Want me to read it?
All right, so we're gonna put in this, and I know this looks like a big pan to be doing such a small amount of gastrique in. But when sugar caramelizes, I'm gonna need to pour, oops, didn't measure out my vinegar. Oops, I am so bad. Let me do that. And I need a half cup. All right, so apple cider vinegar, a half a cup, about a half a cup here. Because the minute that starts caramelizing, we can't look around for this vinegar. This is just plain apple cider, the unpasteurized kind that you can get at the farmer's market and stuff right now. All right, and I'm gonna need a fourth of a cup of water in with my cider vinegar. All right, and that's what will make the sauce. So that's the reason I'm using such a big pan, is because when I put the liquids in there with the sugar, it's gonna go. And if you have a little short pan, it would be all over me and it would burn my hands and Tom would get mad because it would burn the microwave oven and everything. So we're gonna make kind of a deepish pan. I've got the sugar called for here. It'll make sure there are not any lumps. There were a couple. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is turn on the burner. And you want that pretty warm, and you just kind of watch it, and it'll start to turn, it'll melt first, and then it'll start to turn. We just want it sort of amber color. We don't want it dark caramel like we were making crème caramel renversée. We just want it, and you don't stir it, you just shake the pan around. Isn't this exciting? Are you excited? Do you think this is really cool? Tom says, no, I just want to eat it. Okay. As I say, you just keep, that's starting to stick to the bottom. So it's starting to caramelize. It's right here. I'm finished with my cinnamon. The sugar is making a liar out of me.
It's a watch pot.
The watch pot. It's the watch pot. Okay, now it's starting to stick on the bottom, so that means it's going to start to turn almost immediately. This usually only takes 3 or 4 minutes. Can you hear it sizzle a little bit? Can you see there? Look, see where it's starting to turn right there on the edge? So I'm going to get my sugar sort of around, scattered evenly. Come on. There we go.
Feels hot.
Feels hot. Yep, it's going. It won't be long now. See, it's if I move it, see it's starting to flow rather than, I just need to get all of the sugar melted like that. And it's coming really close. You don't want to stir this. Don't put your wooden spoon in here or anything. Once we get our vinegar and our cider in there, then we'll pull a spoon out and stir. All right, this is good. Now, see it? Can you see? It's the good color. We just need that last little bit of sugar to melt. Come on. All right, here we go. Now, can you see? Look, there it is. It's done. We don't want any more heat on it this second, because we don't want it to cook for it. But watch this. Stand back. Now, then what happens is some of that sugar makes kind of a little thing like that. You want to stir until it's all, now I'm going to turn the heat down and stir until it's all dissolved. Once it's all dissolved, I'm going to put it on the back burner and let it just reduce down a little bit so it's a little thicker. It'll make like a vinegar syrupy thing. And it's still a little bit of hard stuff in there. There's that little piece right there. Just won't go away. I don't know. Oh, go. Okay. All right, that's looking good. All right, so now I'm going to just stick that kind of on the back, low heat. And let it come up to a simmer and reduce while I cook us some scallops. Now, meanwhile, before I cook the scallops, because when I start to put this together, we're going to want to, I asked you to roast some Brussels sprouts. And I did, what this was I tossed them, they were good sized Brussels sprouts, you can see. And I tossed them with olive oil. Don't tell anybody in Britannia that I did it, okay? Olive oil and salt and pepper, and roasted them for 20 minutes at 400. And they were perfect. 20 minutes at 400. That's what you want to do. And then, so I'm going to put my stuff together over here. That's going over there. And so now my skillet.
That's boiling. Is that supposed to be boiling?
It's supposed to simmer. Yeah. Let me turn it way down. It's almost reduced like we want it. Can you see? I'd say a couple more minutes. All right. What I did ask you to put it in first was what the recipe that I translated from French said to do, was put vegetable oil. But you know what? We're not going to do that. We're just going to go ahead and do our scallops with butter. Now I'm using real butter. Okay. I just put it on my fingers. I'm Butterfingers. Okay.
All set for Halloween.
There we go. All right. while that butter's melting, I'm just going to make one of each dish. I'm going to take my scallops. Let me wash my hands before I touch the scallops.
Give you an idea of the size.
These are U-10s. These are U-10s.
I just stuck my finger in some comparison.
Okay. Oh. All right. And what I'm going to do is take a paper towel and I'm just going to pat them dry. Like that. And, of course, that doesn't have anything in it. Now, my butter's going to melt. I could have used a smaller. And can you see how much is in there? I don't know if you can really tell, but that's about what we want if we were making 6 of these. Okay? So I'm turning that off. Right. Oops. Making sure they're dry. Oh boy, I squished one. It'll be okay. All right. And we just want that to brown on the bottom, really pretty good. It is almost impossible to undercook a scallop. What you want to do is get the bottom really looking nice and brown, and then flip it and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. Because if you overcook scallops, they get tough and chewy. So let's see how that bottom. No, not quite. All right, and then all we have to do is assemble our little dish. Let me put these back in the fridge while that cooks. Thank you. All right, so it's going over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how pretty and brown they are? If you had, I'm turning that pan off and just giving them a couple of seconds. And then we're going to put them right here. If you don't have these cute little scallop shells, I'll lend them to you. All right, that looks good. Again, remember, you can hardly undercook a scallop. All right. And then we're going to, that it's rattling. I'm going to put a little napkin underneath it so that it won't make that noise. That should keep it that way. So then what we're going to do is put a few of our little Brussels sprouts around there. We're going to drizzle a bit of our gastrique. You don't want a whole lot of it. Over that. 2 tablespoons would be about the right amount. And then we're gonna make it look kind of cute. A few little sage leaves that we're just gonna tear up and scatter over it. I've never used sage with scallops before. That sounded good. And the finishing touch somewhere I got pomegranate seeds that I forgot to bring out of the fridge.
You want to go look in the garage?
I'm pretty sure it's not in the garage, but ooey, they're so cute. You get them at, they're bright red, and you get them at, let me just look one more time. Don't look in my refrigerator. I could have sworn I put them in here.
All right, I'll run out to the garage.
Okay. All right. Huh. You know what it looks like, right? It's a little plastic tub. All right. I have to tell you, you know, I do the mise en place on, and I went over it 5 times. I'm not kidding you. And I forgot the pomegranate seeds. If you don't find pomegranate seeds, because I wasn't sure, they almost always have them. Did you have them?
No.
They're not out there. Oh. Let me just look one more time. Because I know they're here. Okay. Let me back up again. Okay. So here are pomegranate seeds. They're good on little salads and things. And you just want to take them a little later, usually starting about November, you can get whole pomegranates, and then you get a whole pomegranate for about half of what you pay for one of these little things to see. Okay, so you just want to scatter those around. And there's your, and toasted almonds. Actually, the recipe called for toasted hazelnuts, but I couldn't find hazelnuts anywhere. What do you think? Does that look good?
Yes.
Okay. That's our first course. So now this will be what we'll eat while we think about cooking our main course. There are enough Brussels sprouts, there's enough of everything that I made to make 6 servings, you know, if you had that many scallops thought out. So I tasted the Brussels sprouts, all the stuff together earlier, and I thought it tasted pretty good. But all right, now here is the last thing that we're making tonight. I said something about doing a Bretagne, and about 10 people said, "Oh, galette breton." I'm going, oh, I mean, Bretagne, I was in once about 40 years ago, and I don't remember much about it. When I was 12. That's why I keep it. When I was 12, he said. And, but anyway, so I looked and I found a whole bunch of recipes, and I made one, and it didn't look like the picture. So I made a different one, and Teresa saw the results of the second one, but it wasn't right. And I was talking to Linda Rush the other night, and she said, "Well, I have this great recipe for galette." I went, "Well, let's try that." So this afternoon, Tom went to the grocery for me this morning, and he got the stuff I needed. This one calls for milk. The one I used did not. And we made I made it. And I made one with it later on. And by Jove, it worked. So come over here.
So the recipe you have is not right, but you will get the right one tomorrow.
That's right. The recipe you have is not right. You'll get everything right tomorrow. I promise. I'm glad I found this. All right. So now, here's the thing. To make the galette, we need a heavy pan. If you have a I could have made it in that pan I did the apples in. The problem is you have to be kind of strong to use a cast iron pan, because what every recipe tells you to do is put it in there and go like this. so that it'll spread into a galette. So let me move this over here. So I made the batter, and it's been in the fridge all afternoon. It said, the recipe said 2 to 4 hours, but I asked Miss Linda and she said it would be okay. So I'm just gonna give it a good stir again. Oh, it's gotten a lot thicker since, we'll see. We'll see how this works. And what we're gonna do then, I'm just gonna tell you, because first we're gonna cook an egg. Almost every recipe I saw said, put the ham, cheese in, put the ham in, break an egg on top and cook it till the egg is done. I couldn't get the egg to even, the white to turn white before the thing would start burning at the bottom. But I found another recipe that said, cook your egg in, in a little tiny bit of butter, and then it'll be just perfect. It'll still be sunny side up, but it'll be just perfect. So what we're doing is a whole bunch of different recipes here, kind of all put together, but the basis for it is Linda's recipe for the, okay, so we're gonna put just a little, we don't need a whole lot of butter in a cast iron skillet if it's well seasoned. This skillet belonged to my grandmother. So I'm gonna tell a little story while this warms up. I was playing bridge, this was in Louisville when I was 25 years old or something, with a group of ladies, and my next door neighbor came home and I heard her walk in the door and scream. Her husband said, so honey, I did the self-cleaning oven while you were gone. And you know that ratty old blackened skillet you have? I put it in there and look how clean and fresh, it's new looking it is. He lived. All right, so I don't want a whole lot of butter on the bottom, just enough to kind of make that. Okay. This is a very well seasoned. I have 2 of them. This was the bigger of the 2. The smaller one. Okay. So it calls, all the recipes call for trying about 1/3 of a cup. This seems like it's gotten thicker, but we'll see. If it doesn't, if it needs a little bit of water, we'll try it. See, is that up now? All right. So here we go. Oh yeah, I think this is gonna be perfect. All right, so this is the ladle is right at 1/3 of a cup, and I'm gonna go like this, and then I'm gonna go scatter. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. I know the French probably make it perfectly round. So now it's just working its way around. Now, that's about right. If you are making this to use as a wrap, or if you have leftover batter, you can make the buckwheat. Oh, we did talk about buckwheat. You can make these buckwheat galettes, but they don't keep very well. But you could use them to wrap some asparagus or something like that as a first course. Okay, this is good. Now, what I've got here is 4 ounces of ham that I bought at Kroger and had them shave the ham, because the picture that Linda sent me looked like the ham had been shaved. We want that to get dry on top before we put anything on it though. And then comes the hard part. It's looking good. Oh, I didn't do my egg. Hang on, won't take long. See, I get to talking, that's my problem. And I want that, I still got time here on this. It needs to get a little toastier looking. And I'm gonna break my egg into that pan when it's ready. Maybe I'll break it into this. Okay, so when that pan is good and hot, and this is doing good. I want that pan to be a little warmer than that, so my egg, I don't want my egg to spread all out over the whole pan. Right. That's good. And if it does, we'll just kind of, all right. That's gonna be good. All right, so while we finish our thing over here, this is nice and dry. So I'm gonna put some shredded, and I'm using Emmental, which is one of the cheeses that they say is made in Britannia. Who knew? Okay, so I got my, because you know, you think of that as a Swiss. And then I'm gonna take my ham, and this is about 4 ounces. I don't know how much I'll need, probably not the whole 4 ounces. And I'm gonna make it like this with a little bit of a indentation in the center. You gotta leave some room around the outside, and you'll see why in a minute. And now, that egg is gonna slide right there. Perfect. And you take a spatula or something, and you just turn that up over the edge like that. And you've got to kind of hold it down for a minute so it'll stay. And then turn that, I may have put a bit too much ham in there. You turn that over like that. And you push it down so it'll stay. Yep, so far, well, what I need is like a straight spatula, but I couldn't find it. And this is the best I can do. And hold it down for a second so it'll stay. And I messed up that one side, but I think we can fix it so it's not awful. I mean, what's important is the way it tastes, right?
Not in French cooking.
Not in French cooking?
It's got to be the way it looks.
The way it looks, okay. Then we've got that. And if I had done it right, this would be up over the side. Okay, that's as good as I can do. If I practice more of this, I should have practiced another one more time with this dough. But that's it. And we're going to put it on. I don't have the right spatula. And we're going to turn it up, and you pretend like you never saw me do that. All right.
Now that looks good.
Yeah, now, that's kind of what it's supposed to look like, and we're going to just cover all my mistakes with a few chives.
Ah.
And if that sat for a minute, I could move that over to the center of the plate. So I can, yeah, okay. Now, that doesn't look too bad, does it?
No, it's good.
Okay. What do we got, 5 minutes?
5 minutes and 40
Okay.
seconds.
All right. So we're going to set this over here beside our course. And I really had planned on our apple clafoutis being done by now. We've got about 5 minutes.
Can you talk about buckwheat? You mentioned.
Oh, buckwheat, of course. You know, I had never cooked with buckwheat.
It was one of those shows when I was a kid.
Yeah, what it was, the little
Little Rascal.
Little Rascal. And so when I went to get it, it said gluten-free on the package. And I thought, what is this? Is this a special kind that's gluten-free wheat? I got this at Kroger's, and I think it was like $2.99 or something. Well, buckwheat turns out to be a seed, not even a grain, that gets ground up into this dark. If the recipe called for using some all-purpose flour, or the galette would be a little darker. But I had a really hard time with what the recipe that tried to use straight buckwheat. And this tastes really good this way. So
Straight flour.
it's when I tried to use straight buckwheat. So the recipe will have some flour and more buckwheat. The one that I send tomorrow, don't make the one I sent you. But the apple thing and the scallops are all okay. The recipes are. Anyway, so I sent. So I tried to put some in a little bit of water and cook it to taste in it. I'm going, ooh, this is weird. But when you cook it like this, it's actually pretty good. And so since I still have, this is my second thing of buckwheat, I still have half a package. I'll have to see what else I can do with it. And does anybody have an idea of something else besides galette bretonne?
Well, in Pennsylvania, buckwheat pancakes are very popular.
Ah, Tom's from Pennsylvania.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we'll try that. Make him feel like he's back home again.
That's
If
right.
you do look for the buckwheat flour at Kroger, it's in the health food section.
Yeah, in the natural food section, not in the regular flour section. Not in the, yeah, so you need that little one that's in a corner somewhere. But I was very pleased with the way that even the bad ones tasted, even the ones that wouldn't do what I wanted to do, sort of like this. But I'd never used it before. And it's not wheat, it's a seed, actually. So that's what I know about that.
Questions, type them up on the chat.
Yes?
Get Alyce to answer them. The only thing I put up on the chat was that VILUX is the French vinegar you mentioned.
Yeah. If you can find French, the Velux apple vinegar, it's the best apple vinegar to get.
And if you find it, tell Alice.
If you find it somewhere, tell me. Yeah. Because we tried to order
We
it. on
ordered it. We
Amazon.
ordered it from France on Amazon, and then after several months, we said it's not here, and they gave us their money back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna go come and look at our apple tree. Oh yeah. Look at that. It needs just a couple more minutes, but I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah, pretty. Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, it needs a couple more minutes. It's
We
hot.
got a minute and 28 seconds.
Yeah. Well, we'll give it a minute and 28 seconds, and then we'll look at it again. It needs to be a little bit brown on top.
Yeah.
But if you think about it now, yes, there was prep and there was mise en place. But what we've done is cook a 3-course meal in 35, 40 minutes?
45.
45 minutes. How can you do that? I never did that before. So, I mean, as I said.
Yeah, but you practice for 4 hours.
Yeah, I did practice on my galettes, and obviously I need a little more practice on my galette. But that's a recipe that's, that's good, except that you just have to, I don't see how you could get that egg white cooked.
Right.
So it looked like a cooked egg white, trying to do it on the galette.
Yeah.
So
Alice, let's see. Linda said she makes a sherry chicken buckwheat crepe, rolls them up, puts them side by side in a baking dish, and pours a sauce over them.
ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Renee asked about apples, but Linda, she wanted to know what kind. You said Gala? I think that's what you said.
Yeah, Gala. They had Honeycrisp on sale, and I love those apples, but we need ones.
Timer.
Oh, there goes my timer. Okay. We need apples that are not quite as sweet as the Honeycrisp. All right.
Mhm.
Let's see. Now. Yeah, that looks done to me.
Mm.
Can you see it?
Oh, yes. Beautiful.
Need your glove. Push that back.
Okay. Now, what you would do is
Which way you going?
right here. What you need to do is let this set just a little like any other kind of baked thing and settle and just kind of typically 10 minutes if you want to serve it warm. But it's really good. This is good even with if you let it set at room temperature. You know, till for an hour, let's just say you do it before you start cooking everything else. So here we go. If their first course and your dessert are this pretty and tasty, nobody's going to care if this doesn't pretty as long as it tastes good, right?
Yeah. I think it looks.
Tom says that's not what the French would say.
No, you'll have to practice.
You'd be demoted to dishwasher.
He says I'd be demoted to dishwasher if I turned out a dish like that. Is there, are there any more questions? I would like to just wait a couple minutes and then I'll dip some of this up.
She's got to unmute it if you want.
Any other questions?
Can people type in questions and then
Yeah, there's 8 comments, but I don't know what they are.
Debbie said another name for clafoutis from Brittany is called phare breton. Is that the same as phare breton?
Phare breton is a little bit different and it's typically done with prunes.
Oh.
Yeah, I've had that before. But it's very similar, but it's typically done with prunes and not any other fruit that I've ever seen anyway.
Yeah. Drew asked about the seasoning in the apples.
Seasoning in the apples was cinnamon, and the batter had some amber beer in it, and some milk. As I said, I used
And the photographer has the rest of the beer.
The photographer got the rest of the beer as a treat. Yes, and I made, and as I said, but it won't make any difference in the way it looks, and it won't make much in the way it tastes. But I did use vegan butter and almond milk, so Tom can have every single bite of the apple thing. All right, I'm going to try to scoop up a little bit of that and see.
So Alice, with that, Linda wrote the cidre bouche fermented and bubbly. I think, is that what you were suggesting, Linda, that you would drink with it instead of wine? Like if you're in Brittany and you had this meal, I don't think you would serve it with wine, would you? Wouldn't you serve it with a
Cidre boucher, yeah, cidre boucher.
brut. A
boucher.
cidre brut, yeah.
And that's what you would drink with this rather than a wine.
I just said maybe, I don't know, but
I think Linda.
Debbie, do you know? I think so. In Normandy and Brittany, they don't drink as much wine as they
Yes, they have sweet cider and then dry cider, and you would use a cidre brut for the most part for main courses.
Yeah, and we saw some of that in the Target where the beer is. We got a couple of
I don't know if you've done it.
bottles of hard cider, but I didn't think I needed to start drinking before we.
Jones Orchard
That's my
out in
look at it.
Millington makes cider.
Apple cider? Oh.
Yes, they make all kinds of cider, and you can go out there for a tasting. The only reason I know is because my daughter has a celiac, so cider is something she can drink. She can't have beer, but she can have cider.
No.
I didn't realize that. And
Yeah,
where is it?
The only thing-
it's Jones's Orchard out in
Oh,
Millington.
sure. Yeah.
So
Okay.
So they've gotten into the cider business.
Well,
Drew,
yeah.
said that he had talked to Michelle Allen, and she said they never had cinnamon in France. I have had cinnamon in France. It's called cannelle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
C-A-N-N-E-L-L-E. And you said, and so Drew said, I always say to her family just didn't use cinnamon. But I think that's probably the case because there is cinnamon in France. You can buy it on the spice rack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
I-
even have the cannelé, which are cinnamon flavored pastries down in Bordeaux.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is cinnamon. Yeah.
Okay. If you look, this is now the filling is not so puffy, so I think it'll be okay to go ahead and dig up a little bit of, oh yeah, this is good. So we'll dig up, let me get a, something like this. And maybe could have taken that extra 5 minutes, but it's cooked. Just, yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is good. And if you wanted, I wouldn't tell the Breton this, but if you wanted to, you could put a little ice cream on top of that.
Yeah.
What I tried to do was not use milk and cream in every single course. They use a lot of that. And
They do.
yeah. Oh, but I want to tell you one thing I found. Hang on. All right. I use this a lot. This is called European style. Well, now it's not. Maybe they took that European, it used to say European style because it's got less, it's got a higher butter fat content than the regular butter, where you melt it, the regular butter, and you have to kind of skim it off if you don't want that creamy stuff. But, and I haven't opened this yet. Now, this is Vermont, but this is cultured butter. This is the kind you get in France. And, you know, I was gonna make stuff with it, and then I thought, what if it's not as good as I think it is? But I'll get back to you and let you know. I just, it sounded so good. Because
No, this group doesn't have anybody that's not cultured.
Yeah. But this is what I typically use, and now it says extra creamy, but it used to say European style on it. And I'm gonna save this for some time when I'm gonna spread it on something like, you know, like croissant or something, you know. Anybody, anything else?
Questions? I think that's all. Thank you so much. We really appreciate
Thank you.
that. And that
It was fabulous.
yeah,
Well,
it's a fascinating area.
Oh, I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
Where did you get your little Coquille Saint-Jacques shells? The plates.
I'm guessing maybe Williams-Sonoma.
Okay.
Yeah, but you mean the little shells?
The little shell plates, yes.
They're not plates, they're real scallop shells.
Oh, they're real scallop shells.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, the next time any of us go to France, and who knows when that will be,
Oh, cool.
we'll bring home a bottle of that apple cider vinegar. We'll have to go to the store and ask for that. Belux.
Fresh Market used to carry it, but they didn't have it. They haven't had it the last few times I've been in.
Yeah, that's.
And we maybe, if we talk to somebody, they would order a case, but we haven't tried that yet.
Yeah.
They've been out of a lot of things. I think there's a supply issue.
It is. You can't
Out
get
of
so
those
many things.
Spices. I had trouble getting rice flour.
I wonder about World Market,
There's no world market in Memphis.
but you can do it online.
Oh.
Well, we searched online for that apple cider vinegar, and the only thing that came up was Amazon, and that didn't work.
Okay.
It was probably because of the pandemic and all that.
It is.
Yeah.
And when we were getting it was pandemic time, so it may still be sitting in customs somewhere.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
We ordered some face masks from China, and they took 2 months to get through the LA airport.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't that
I'm everywhere.
Yeah, that came from Taiwan.
came from Taiwan, and it was also it got here a whole lot. It got to the States a whole lot sooner than it got to us.
Well, thank you again, Alice. And I want to remind
It's
everyone,
wonderful.
Merci.
check your flash this weekend. There's some other things coming up. But the next Memphis Alliance event is scheduled for October 17th. It's a Saturday. It's at an odd time, which I can't remember now, but in the middle of the day, because Harriet Welty Rochefort is living in Paris and is doing this live for our group only on Saturday, October 17th.
11 a.m.
Is it? Thank you for looking that up. 11 a.m. That's not too bad, 11 a.m. So that means it's 6 o'clock. Well, I don't know because I don't know when daylight savings time is. But anyway, those of you who have bought the book, she just wrote to me this week and said she just sent the book plates.
Okay.
So they should get here in a week or I don't know when. Who knows? Maybe they'll stay 2 months in New York. I don't know. But anyway, she sent some book plates.
October.
And what they are is signed book plates, so that when we get those, I'll send them out to those of you who bought a book. So you will have a signed book. Okay. And then just keep checking. We keep sending out e-flashes and check the Petit Journal. I have to go back and check it from time to time because there's so much stuff now, and it's at different times and different Zoom numbers and various things. And there's some very interesting things coming up that we are not sponsoring. I don't know if I think you realize, don't you, that the Alliance Française sponsors stuff and they are allowing us to piggyback on it.
Yes.
So there's a very interesting one coming up about,
What happened?
there's one coming up that talks about the Seine River. And, and I went to one yesterday about, this guy was at Chenonceau. He was the gardener. This was so fascinating. The man is young. He couldn't be any older than 35. He's from Pennsylvania. And who is he? The gardener at Chenonceau. The one who decides on what plants go in. You mean they couldn't find a gardener in France? But he knew all those flowers. He knew all this stuff. And the one thing, did you watch it, Linda?
I watched part of it.
The one thing I got out of it was last year was the anniversary of Catherine de Medici, 500 years. It would have been 500 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Last year.
Wow.
So they decided to do her favorite colors for the whole garden. And guess what her favorite colors were? I mean, every portrait she's in, plus the decorations at Chenonceau. Black and white. Black and white. He said they had to find black flowers. White flowers were, but they did find quite a few black flowers. And I thought, whoa, I would have loved to have seen that one. But anyway, he was interesting. He was a gardener, a little nerdy, but a gardener. What do you think? But anyway, so those kind of things, and it doesn't last long. They're like 45 minutes or 50 minutes. You always learn something. So anyway, I appreciate everybody coming, and just keep reading your e-flash coming out tomorrow. And there'll be some interesting things in your Petit Journal coming out in another week or so. So, okay.
Well, the e-flash was really interesting this time.
That's what Debbie said.
Yeah.
Debbie wrote to me and she said, I really like your e-flash. So I couldn't try to figure out what it was that was so good. But yeah, thank you. It's always nice to have somebody respond to it because I never know if anybody reads it or not.
Did you start the book that Harriet wrote?
Yes, I finished it.
Oh, well, I thought it started very well. Did you like it throughout?
I liked it throughout, but the ending I thought was too hurried.
Okay, all right. Yeah.